Hi and welcome. My name is Chris. I'm from Luthman. We are here today actually hijacking the 4Sound YouTube video studio. And the reason being, I brought my dear friend Dan Weston from In Music, and we're going to take a look at the all-new Headrush Looperboard. Dan, welcome.
Hey.
How are you, man?
Yeah, really good, thanks.
You good? So, Headrush Looperboard. I had a peek at this piece at NAMM. I was blown away, and then it wasn't even started. So I was like, okay, what is it?
So, yeah, this is super exciting for the Headrush brand. So it's our brand new looper. It's a 4-in, 4-out looper. It's got built-in effects. It's got intelligent time stretching and pitch shifting. And yeah, it's just kind of been created with the aim of giving loop artists the ability to take their looping performances to that
feel
next
free
level.
to name drop if you want to. I mean, that's on a good thing, right? Okay, so 4-in, 4-out, you say?
Yeah, so 4 inputs, you've got all combo jack, so you could plug a guitar straight into there like we've got here.
Yep.
You could have a drum machine or a line level source like a keyboard going in there, or a microphone, and all of those inputs will power condenser microphones as well, so you're kind of not limited with what you can bring into the board. You can have whatever you want within those 4 inputs. Each of them then have their own gain control as well, so you've got a lot of control as to what you can bring in to record onto your 4 looper tracks. So 4 tracks to record in on. Each can be up to 99 layers, and they can be set up to either be mono or stereo depending on how you want to work. And then with the outputs, you've got 4 main outputs, so 2 TRS jacks, 2 XLRs, and then there's a 1/4-inch headphone out as well. And you can route any of your 4 inputs, any of the 4 looper tracks. There's also a backing track player and a click track on board, and you can choose where any of those things go. So it's really customizable. And then that continues into how you actually record. So there's 5 different modes that you can set the board up in, depending on how you like to loop. So you can use each track as maybe a different instrument, or you can use each track as a different section of a song, and then you can just be triggering those sections. So say you had intro, verse, chorus, you can just trigger those, jump between the different sections, be performing over the top. So it opens up a kind of new world of possibilities for people to start really being creative with their looping.
Yeah, and important because we all seen guys with loop stations or looping pedals, like Ed Sheeran and all of those guys. But important to know is that this is not a guitar only related product, right?
No, so
you can put in whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever you want. If you're a beatboxer, you could beatbox into this. If you really love your synths, you could be just looping synth stuff. Kind of whatever you want, which is really nice. And it doesn't have to just be used as a performance tool. I think it's really powerful as a songwriting tool. You can use it to layer down new ideas, see what works, see what doesn't. You can essentially use it as a floorboard DAW. So you've got a mixer on board there, you've got your effects, which essentially work as plugins. And then you can record onto your 4 tracks. You can see all the waveforms. You can even bounce down, so you can, once you've got your mix and you can pan everything, once you're happy with that, you could bounce that down into a 2-channel stereo WAV file and then just pull that off your board and have it ready to go. So
then you're like freeing a space of 3 new tracks when you bounce that down to like a stereo track.
You could bounce your 4 tracks down to 1 individual track and then have 3 more tracks then to build up on.
You were mentioning that you can actually use it in some different kind of ways. You mentioned like 5 different...
Yeah. The 5 modes are these little buttons down the bottom. You can just change between them by tapping. And the first one is called fixed mode, which gives you 4 looper tracks that are all fixed at the same length as each other. That length can either be preset, so if you know that you're going to go in and say record 8 bars, and you can set that up to be 8 bars, or you can just come along with your guitar or drum machine, whatever you're using, hit record, do your loop for however long you want it to be, hit stop, and then the other tracks are all set to the same length as that first loop. So what I've got here is some drums, bass, rhythm and melody. I'll just bring them in and out now so you can see how it's working. You can see how the screen works. So they're all blue when they're stopped, they go green if they're playing, and red if they're recording. So you can start and stop them whenever you want.
Yeah.
Really quite a straightforward way of looping if you know that everything's going to be the same length.
Yeah.
And then you can bring stuff in and out as and when you want. The next mode, which is fairly similar, but now allows you to have each track at a slightly different length. They all need to be multiples of each other. So what that basically means is if you, say, recorded in something that was 2 bars long, you couldn't have something that was 3 bars long. It'd have to be 1, 2, 4, 8 multiples of that first loop that you record in. But it means that you can be a bit more quicker with your performance. So I know there's acoustic guitarists out there that do a lot of percussive stuff on their acoustic guitars, and maybe if they're doing an 8 or 16 bar loop, they might have to play in 16 bars of doing the same thing.
Trust me.
Whereas with this mode, you wouldn't have to do that. You could say play in 2 bars of your percussive loop that would then repeat, and then play 16 bars of your guitar chord progression over the top with that first 2 bars of percussive stuff just looping underneath it. So on this project, I've got 2 bars of drums, 4 bars of rhythm and bass, and 8 bars of melody. And you'll see when I hit play that the cursor moves across the screen at different speed for each track, so you can still see exactly where you are within each loop on the waveform. But yeah, it's just a slightly quicker and easier way of building up a section of your song. I think it's really satisfying to see those all moving at different speeds. It's really cool. So cool, yeah, those were the 2 modes that I would say are great for creating a section of a song.
Yeah.
But then we've got 2 other modes which are really great if you want to maybe have different sections and perform a whole song with different areas that you jump between.
Yeah.
So for this mode, serial mode, you can now use each track as a different section of your song.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I've got this project set up. I've got an intro, verse, and a chorus. And if I say start the intro, it will loop. I can then hit, say, 3, which will trigger my chorus to come in when my intro finishes. But yeah, it means you can very quickly jump between different sections, and say you're performing instead of having a backing track where maybe you're fixed to whatever's been recorded before, and you're playing and the audience is loving it, and you think, oh, I need an extra chorus at the end here. You can just keep it playing, you've got an extra chorus. So a really, really cool way of performing whole songs. You can have this all preset as much as you want, so you could have maybe just drums for each section set up, and then you can play everything over the top, or you could have drums and some guitar and bass parts, and then almost just use it like an interactive backing track player. So yeah, a cool way of using it. But then there's another mode on top of that, serial sync mode, which works in a similar way, but instead of having to layer, say, the same thing on each of those tracks, we can have 2 tracks playing at the same time, which means on track 1 we can record everything that doesn't change throughout our whole performance, and then the stuff that is changing we can have on 2, 3 and 4.
All right, yeah.
So I've got some drums on track 1, I've got chorus stuff on 2, and bridge stuff on 3. Again, if I hit 3, that triggers my bridge. But yeah, you'll hear there's the same drums playing underneath both of those. So instead of me having to layer up drums on, say, 4 tracks, you can just have it on 1 track, play that in. It's really good if you want to build your whole track up whilst you're performing to an audience. So record it on 1 track. You don't have to record it in 4 times. And then you've got your different sections you can jump between with the stuff that is changing. There is a 5th mode, which I don't have a project for, but it's called free mode. It basically has no rules, and it allows you to use the board however you want. You can come in, you have 4 tracks, all different lengths, all playing at the same time, going out of sync with each other. So quite cool if you want to make like ambient soundscapes, or if you just don't like sticking to the rules and you want to do what you want to do.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so Dan, that's kind of a few modes that you can actually use the Looperboard in.
Yeah.
Shall we do some playing in real time looping?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So
I'll grab the guitar.
I will just set up a new project here.
Yeah.
And maybe I can just quickly show you how easy it is to get everything set up. So I've put it into sync mode, which will allow us to make sure everything stays in sync. Basically, a foolproof way of making sure you never go wrong when you're looping. Once I'm in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load in some drum parts. So we've got 300 drum loops on board, loads of different genres and types of music. You can load your own files in as well. So if there's something that you really want to play along to, just bring it in, enter through your WAV files. It will take it. And
that would go via a computer or a flash drive or.
Yeah. So there's a USB port on the back to kind of save stuff or load stuff in from your computer, or there's an SD card slot and a USB stick slot on the back, so you can just put some files onto an SD card, put it into the back of the unit.
Awesome.
So let's go for more cowbell. That sounds like fun. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Now we've got a guitar going into our input 1, but at the moment it's just a clean DI. So we want to add some effects onto that.
Yeah.
So in our effects menu, we've got 4 slots here that we can add one of 6 effects racks, depending what we're recording in. So if we're recording vocals, there's a vocal rack, drum rack, studio rack. But today we've got a guitar, so we'll put on a guitar effect. And then we can choose whether that effect is applied to one of our 4 looper tracks or one of our 4 inputs.
Right.
So we're running guitar into input 1. I'll put it on there, and I will go for a preset that I've created called Dan Lead.
Yeah.
So on that, we can see the effects that we've got. We've got an amp and a cab, some modulation, a spring, reverb, and a delay. There is some other options of whammy, overdrive, and a wah, which we won't use to start with. But what I'm actually going to do is, instead of having a whole new rack, I'm just going to assign another foot switch to be a whammy. So when we're playing, we can quickly turn that on and off, and now you have a bass sound.
Yeah.
So really nice if you're looping a song, you're playing guitar, you don't want to have to swap and get your bass. You can literally just put the whammy octave down, and you've got a bass sound. Let's record something in.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go with the cowbell track.
Yeah, man.
So I kind of started going through some of our functions,
Yeah.
which we can go into a little bit more detail now, but you'll see I was able to reverse individual tracks. I can fade stuff in and out. We've also got a mixer on board, which means once you've recorded your stuff in, or you can even have these preset to levels, so if you're performing and you know that maybe you want your bass to be a little bit more boosted than what your guitar was, you can have this all set, and you can pan stuff, so if you're performing and you want, I don't know, some vocals coming over one side and your guitar on the other side, you can do all of that from the board. So yeah, mixer on there, which is very, very easy to use.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, I must say that the touchscreen, that's super fast. It's like...
And then with the functions that I was using, we've got the ability here to change the speed and length of our loop. We can reverse. So like I showed when you were playing there, we can either flip individual tracks, or you can use this button here to reverse everything, and it will completely flip it. So if you've already got something flipped like this, it will just flip them the opposite way.
Right, yeah.
You can fade in and out each different track. and you can change the fade out rate. So at the moment it's set to 50%, which means that's 50% of the loop.
Okay, yeah.
You can set it up to 100% if you want. And then we've got clearing and peeling, which basically allows us to take stuff away. So clear will delete everything on a track. Peel means you can take away layer by layer. So if we had 5 layers recorded, you could take away 5, then 4, then 3, and kind of work your way back to where you started. The bouncing function, which we mentioned earlier, where you can take your 4 tracks and bounce them down into one file. You can choose which tracks you want to bounce down. You don't have to bounce all 4. If you just decide, oh, I want to free up one slot, I can bounce 2 and 3 down into, say, track 2.
Yeah.
And then we've got this function here called Transpose, which is really, really powerful, and it's very, very cool for the board. There's nothing else out there that can do this at the moment. So what I can do is take the parts that you've recorded and I can transpose them. So I can essentially do a key change whilst you're performing.
In real time?
In real time.
Wow.
So if we play this again, and I'll just take your 2 guitar parts and I'll transpose them down, say, 3 semitones.
Yeah.
We can do it with percussive stuff as well. So I could take that cowbell, I could pitch shift that.
Yeah.
I think we could probably do some cool stuff with that. So yeah, they're kind of
cool.
You could do some really, really funky stuff with that. And it's, taking the, like I was saying earlier, taking the looping performance to that next level, because, you wouldn't have been able to do a key change before, but if you, I don't know, you're doing a song that you want to take it to a different key to finish, then do it all from the board. And as well as that pitch shifting, we've also got the intelligent time stretching, which I mentioned at the beginning, which the intelligence of the time stretching means we can go to double the speed or down to half the speed that we recorded at, and it doesn't change the pitch that we recorded it in at. So if I just demo that quickly, so this was recorded at 120, which means I can go up to 240 or down to 60 without changing the pitch, without changing the quality of the audio. No.
So wait, does this actually mean, so if you're, let's say if you're in a band situation where you're playing the guitar, maybe doing the vocals, and you're the one with the looper board, and then you have your bass player and you have your drummer, and you start to loop something, and if the drummer gets kind of, not that I say that drummers get out of the beat, but if they should, you can actually like tap the tempo just to find it again. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so let's check this out.
Yeah, let's see how this works. Any tempo within that range, down to half, up to double the speed that you're recording at. Last couple of things I should probably quickly mention about is we've got 9 hours onboard recording time.
Yeah.
So loads and loads of room on there to actually record. But as I said earlier, there is a slot for a USB stick or a SD card. So if you do run out of space, then just expand it with one of those. There's MIDI control on there as well, so you can, say, sync it up to a drum machine if you're performing with other MIDI gear. But yeah, it's completely kind of up to you, the customer, how you want to use this. There's so many different ways. Everyone I've spoken to is coming up with new ideas of how they're going to use it, whether they're going to be looping with it, whether they're going to be using it as a backing track player, as a kind of an interactive one so they can be a little bit more creative with how their backing tracks work, or even just people that want to get it in the studio and start writing songs with it. So I think it's super exciting, and it's available now, which is great.
Well, there you have it, the Headrush Looperboard. Dan, thanks for coming, man.
Great to see you.
Next time, please turn that on. I want to play around with this. Let's start something.